All right, good afternoon. Um, Today we're going to be doing a comparison of Deepseek versus ChatGPT in terms of providing updates to our models. I gave it kind of the recap of what's happening. I gave it the code that we have here, so the two files that we've been working in, this baseline fast v2, and then the Red gym environment. Um, Gave it a little bit of the context, and then asked it to make changes for each of them. So comparing the ChatGPT 4.0 versus the DeepSeek R1. Unfortunately, ChatGPT's 01 model doesn't allow files to be provided to it in the UI. So even though I have them in a ChatGPT project, I can only ask it on the 4.0 models. So I can't use the reasoning side of things, which I don't know if that would have helped or not in terms of the output. Hopefully, we're going to see a difference in the output here. And then DeepSeek, you can upload files and then you can turn on reasoning and it will use those. So I just want to kind of make that aware. It's not an exact apples to apples comparison in terms of the reasoning of one another. So just because it's not an option for us, if you could upload files and then use those in the reasoning prompts, that would be great. I don't know why that's not available as an option on the ChatGPT. I don't know that it would change if I had the pro membership or not. I just have the base membership there, and then DeepSeek, it does it by default. So just set up a free account. I had the two files uploaded in here, and I had asked it basically the same prompt to both of them. I'll pull DeepSeek over here so you can see what it is. I had tried a couple different times on each of them to get the output here, kind of refining my prompt to what we're going to be using for the updates. So I said this is a reinforcement learning on Pokemon Red. I'm encountering a few issues. The main thing that's been a struggle for us is where the exits are not on the edges of locations. So I realized this in terms of the progression when I was watching how it was moving through Mount Moon to try and find the exits, and it would always try and go to the edges. It really struggled to find something in the middle of a location. And for Mount Moon, besides the initial entrance and the final exit, everything else is in the middle of the map. And it really struggled to find that back corner location to get out of Mount Moon fully. So that's the problem that I'm presenting to it. Now, I wanted to let it know, just from asking both of them the first time I had given it, that it was inferring that the agent was able to look at the screen and then use that to evaluate where it needs to go next. And that is not the case here, right? We're just examining coordinate pairs as it goes through. So that's why this first thing's here. The second one is it had mentioned in both of them that maybe that the menus could provide more information to the model. I think this is part of that there is no visual map that the agent is actually looking at when it goes through related to this, but I include the information here. Basically, the menus are not valuable to the agent in terms of exploration. It is useful if you're trying to heal the Pokemon or you're rearranging the team, but that is the exception. And then I had the novelty reward that we'd worked on. We pulled that out in terms of its evaluation last time, but the main conclusion from that was that the agent was manipulating the award, and it would wait for the maximum gain before it would explore. And sometimes it would just sit to try and figure out, well, it increased every time I moved, and at a certain point, maybe it'll come back again, right? It doesn't know that I had set it to always be the minimum. So it was waiting longer and longer and longer between the moves to try and maximize that gain for exploring it. So then the implementation for that would need to be changed. And then I suggested maybe it should be a large reward for the first time, each time a new location is visited. Now, the caveat to this then is it has to actually make it, let's say, into Mount Moon to then get the reward for the first time going there. But then the trade-off here is it has to actually complete that area to go to the next area. So we're still going to be having issues with Mount Moon itself. But the idea here is when you provide it that additional move or additional bonus, then the agents should learn to move through locations more and more to find those. So then it says here 22 seconds for it to go through. It's basically recapping what I said and then trying to come up with adjustments to make for those. So then here, it wants me to change how the map exploration rewards are being scaled. So you can see here it's scaling them down actually by square rooting the number of X and Y coordinates that are found. Then when it encounters a new tile, it's providing a small amount of the reward. And then every time it transitions to a new map location, it's giving a large reward to doing that. So you can imagine now it's going to scale up much more quickly in terms of getting to new areas that it will do that. So that way this provides updates to the scores itself. Then if it's going through the menus and it goes to do certain heals, it's actually going to give it additional rewards for those. So then if it's in the menus, but it's not taking any action, it's actually reducing a point the whole way through. And then it's going through and it's updating heal rewards in a different way as well, where before we were doing like percentage heals, where now it's going to give to a rate of just using the Pokemon Center, or if we're using healing items like potions throughout there. This next one was it actually going through how I described it was gaming the novelty rewards here. So it's checking if there is new maps being visited, it's going to provide it a point. If not, then return it 0. And then this is working on basically makes an 8x8 block and tries to see if the agent had completed that block location. So one of the things that I would raise here is that if there are gaps in the XY pair, I don't know how it's going to affect those points there, but if it hadn't made a move in about, or hadn't encountered a new location, then it will give it this -1 reward for each of these. So again, the 15 points for going to a new map, the -1 for going back to old zones after a while, and then the now completing a zone essentially to get the rewards. I'm very iffy on this part of its explanation here because I don't know if it understands how the map is actually being compiled along the way. This was just going through and putting everything here for the output to 1dB. And then this was saying to make adjustments to the training rewards, basically, just to treat it a little bit differently than what it had been doing before. And so what it expects now is that the agents will go through and essentially try and cover the whole map as they go through. Again, prioritizing those transitions from one zone to another in the game, and then really only using the menus strategically. So it was doing very direct to the prompt that we had given, and having more time to think about this because I had put this together yesterday. is the first thing I probably should have done here was ask it to understand those files and explain to me what those are doing to make sure it understands those, rather than just trying to jump into trying to troubleshoot right away. Because if it doesn't understand the base problem, it won't be able to build a proper solution to them, or it won't not just understand the problem, but also understand how the code is currently working, right? And so the hope there is that this would get better going through those. And then if I go through the adjustments that ChatGPT had given me, essentially what they were saying is here in the PPO to adjust one of the coefficients to encourage it to move around more. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will find the locations easier. And then if when I asked it to give me something to encourage it to encounter new maps, essentially it came up with, if this current map that it's on is different than the last map that it was on, give it points. But this could be exploited by transitioning, let's say, back and forth between one of the routes, like going from Viridian Forest into, what is that, Route 5 over and over again, would cause it to gain points over and over and over again, right? And then another thing here was if it visits a new square, it's trying to give it a large amount of the reward. But then if it is going back to a location over and over again, it starts to take away from the rewards, similar to what was done here. This one is saying, though, deduct a full point if it's been more than 1,000 steps since it had stepped on that coordinate. And then the ChatGPT version is essentially, if it's not within the last 50 steps, then it's going back to the square too frequently. And so essentially don't do that by giving it a negative reward. Another thing here was if it was going through the menus to go to the items or the Pokemon, it was giving it a small reward. But the way it implemented it, I think, is not correct here. It essentially was saying that it should be going into the memory and then checking for healing or the Pokemon menu. But going into the healing is not direct, right? That's the item menu, and then it needs to use a potion. And I don't believe that it actually tracks that correctly there. The other thing it had mentioned was to update how it's going to provide a map coverage reward for fully exploring a location. So if it were to cover every map in a section, or every coordinate pair in a map section, then it would give them a reward for those. And that was quite significant. It was like 25 points, which is very high compared to what we normally do. But I'm just not sure in how it pulled those together. In terms of its implementation, it was essentially saying that it needs to, for 25% of the section explored, it gets a smaller reward, then at 50 it gets larger, 75 it gets larger, all the way up to 100, and then that's when it gets the large part of the bonus. But I don't know how it figures that out, because we're only updating, or not the agents only update the map space as they progress through an area. So I'm worried that if it steps on a first square, it will then mark it as 100%. And then the next square, because as far as the agent knows, it's now gone to 2 out of 2 squares, so you're at 100% again. And then the next step would be going at 3 out of 3, so that's still 100%. And it will give it a large reward in terms of how ChatGPT's 4.0 suggestion had handled the exploration task here. So let's take Deepseek and let's just say, let's go back to the beginning here. So let's just use the original files provided. Can you tell me what the rewards are for the agents and how adjust those? The goal is to obtain all the badges, beats the elite 4 and final trainer battle. In Pokemon Red. There will be penalties for the agents getting the agents not exploring but be careful because they may not be exploring due to battles in the game. Let's see what it says. All right, so okay, so it's still pulled in the information that I provided before. So then exploration, the menus, the badges here, because I mentioned those, the not moving penalty, heal, event. Okay, so it did pick up on that. So it's still pulling in the suggestions from before. Okay, so let's compare that against the rewards here. So let's see, it calls them state scores. Is that what? Yes, we do here. So ours is 10, then levels, healing. Does this actually include level? Yes. See, it suggests to do exponential, but this is not, like, these are redundant with one another. You're going to get the base badge reward itself, and then you're going to reward it again. So now it's doubling up on what it's suggesting here as terms of the outcome. And then let's see here. talking about the new map transitions. These are so it does have the memory map tied in because it found these specific values for these, which is interesting that it did so, but it's, again, the reward is far too high. And then this says allows backtracking for required items in battles. I don't know how it's actually doing that. It's just saying that that's an option here, but we don't see that here in the code. Here we check so it will constantly provide it will constantly penalize the agent for having a low health Pokemon in this state. And then if it raises its health above 90%, then it will give them a reward. That seems kind of iffy in my mind, but we'll leave it. So now it's checking the badges, the Elite 4 heal, the low HP penalty, the exploration, they renamed to tile, map transitions, the events, which are being reduced, and then the level values being reduced as well. So it's now basically taking out one of those ones. So agent will okay. So after understanding this, there's a few things I want to ask it to change here because I don't. So the reward scaling for badges and Elite 4 is far too high. The total reward for all should not exceed the total reward for all rewards designed should not exceed 10,000. Please scale down appropriately. And then provide where to adjust the code to implement the changes you suggest. being used to track agent progress and rewards instead of TensorBoard. So then we're going to have this make a number of changes through here. So we have moved away from TensorBoard a while ago. So I don't think it followed its own logic here, just in this exploration. For the badges, it's going to get 86,000 points, right? Or 8,600 points. Assuming it gets all the badges along the way here. And then it's going to get 6,500. So if it completes the game, it will have exceeded the 100,000 cap. Right? And then explorations capped at 1,000. Map transitions 500 per. Healing. It did this very, very poorly. Let's say this. We can turn off the reasoning, and then based on your own reward breakdown table, the rewards will exceed 10,000 from just badges and the Elite 4. Right, and so you can see here, right, we don't have a very complex code base in general. We have two files, like between them, it's what? This one's about 1,000 lines, and this one's 100. Like, it's not overly large in terms of what's going on here. And so it's really struggling to get through here, and it's doing very provide all to be made from your suggestions to the original code. So I want to check these if we go to events.json, right? And we want to look at D75A. D75A. Is supposed to be the cerulean rival. D75B is supposed to be Bruno. Cerulean rocket thief is one of them that's been identified. If I go through so the trainer 0 is the trainer themselves. It's being brought along the way here. So the suggestions that I had here for which ones are necessary or not are just straight up wrong. Here you go, D867. That's not right. Maybe we want crystal. There we go. Not in here. Elite. Not in here. Event flag. Let's see. So like specific, let's go here, 7755, right? There you go, the last one, beat Brock. Right? 75E should be Misty. There she is in here. You can see there are a ton of, I guess, misgivings. No, just giving bad information here in terms of, oh, these are the specific flags that we need to look at when this has been compiled by other individuals. And we can see here, it doesn't match up to what they're providing. Right, we didn't see anything specific to the Elite 8 or Elite. We saw them here in the code as what others have already flagged here, but it's definitely not what the agent was suggesting, or yeah, the LLM was suggesting that we do to make these changes, right? So let's go here, badge rewards. Let's go, I think this is where we are for badge. Now we're just taking the straight bit count values here. So that we could implement. It wouldn't be difficult at all. And then check map transition. Well, I don't think we have anything there, right? Yeah, we don't have that implemented. It may have suggested it previously, but we didn't put it in. We never said that we implemented the code changes that it had suggested. So it shouldn't, because I came back here and provide all updates that need to be made from your suggestions to the original code. So it should be telling me where to go in the code to provide the answers, but it's not doing that. It's trying to summarize these changes, but it's assuming, or at least I think it's assuming, that I'd already made all the previous changes. Right, and then same thing, we don't have the actual stagnation penalty here implemented, so there's no way that to put this in. Here's the check map transition. Again, it's just looking at, did it move off of the last map? But this can be easily exploited by moving back and forth between two locations. It's not going to do it, but you do see here ChatGPT's implementation is the exact same as what Deepseek is suggesting as well. And then we see changes here as well. Update the new for the new reward scaling. Where is the reward scaling? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's saying to take these down and then make changes to the callback. Put these in. We know these are not the correct values, right? We looked these up. They are not matching what had already been found here in the JSON file. So if I want to find Bruno, I need to check the bit here, and that's not the same as what it's suggesting. Going through, making changes to 1dB, that's fine. So the majority of what I asked it to do, it did not successfully put in either of them, right? I asked them to tell me very specifically, right? So I have not implemented any of the previous suggestions. Can you provide instruction on where to implement each of your suggestions in the code? If you do not provide proper instructions where the code fails to run, you will be penalized. So I turned reasoning on to just try and see if this would be helpful to it in any way, shape, or form based on what it is. So now we've iterated a few times back and forth. Let's see here. So I still didn't tell it about the final, the Elite Four bit locations not being correct. So it hadn't picked up any of the changes there. This is going through, it's doing a lot of the same thing here. So simply, it wants to replace this. So we have a function for get badges. That's here. And then when it gets here, it's supposed to just take get badges and give that result. But instead, it's saying to implement this. So if I take badge out, and I'm just going to paste in exactly what it says, we're going to eventually run into issues. So this is the badge rewards. Let's do this, right? It said to go here and replace this with this, but this does not work because it's in a so it's going to get the value out here. That's fine. But again, so 0 for 1 in terms of actually putting these in here. Elite 4 and Champion rewards, giving rewards for these specific flags. Again, the issue is these flags are just incorrect. We have the values already mapped here in our events JSON. Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, Lance, and their rival. But it's not those same values. You're looking here, it's DE866 for Lance. But it took basically just values from the beginning of the group and just said, yep, this one's Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, Lance. There was no logic, no research done here. It just did not work correctly. So 0 for 2. Exploration rewards with cap. This is basically just saying that it's going to take the number of scene coordinates, which we had massively scaled down. So if I take this and change explore, it's now capped at 500. We need to go to a last map. So every step, it's going to try and recalculate if it's on a different map than before, but this should always be the case. Let's see. So it's going to read the value if the current map is not the last map. Set the last map then equal to the current map and set the value here to true. Otherwise, return false. So you're going to spike a reward every time you step on a new map, and then you're going to suddenly lose it the very next frame. So again, I wonder, just on this implementation, the agent's going to not get the outcome that we wanted here. It's going to go onto a new map. It's then going to immediately lose the reward on the next step. And then it'll be like, oh, I need to move. I just lost 200 points, or I did something wrong. Well, no matter what it does, it's going to get the wrong outcome here. So this is not a good implementation of this. So we are, what now, 0 for 4? I guess it technically did give me the instruction to cap out this, so it's 1 for 4 so far. Health management adjustments. So previously, we had a heal reward that was 5 times the percent of health changed. It's still going to receive that reward, but then it's going to receive a penalty as long as it stays on low health. And then once it fixes that, it will lose that penalty. So, okay, this seems fine to me. It said to change here. We're going to now provide that change. We'll see. It's going to get a sudden negative penalty here in battle. I don't know if it's going to know how to fix it. We will see how that implementation actually works, but it's something to try. So let's say so far we are 2 of 5 with the suggestions, actually providing the steps that I had asked it to do. Stagnation penalty. Here, go to last scene chords. What was this? Update. scene cores. So we had put in a grace period before. This is just straight changing it. So, okay, you did implement a stagnation penalty? Sure. That's 36. So after a rough start, I guess we're back up to 50% of the instructions followed. Just adjust the reward scale down. Okay, reward scale here is 1. It's saying to do 0.08. Fine. Not necessarily going to help. WANDB tracking. After model learn, so it says to go here after the learn step, but it will never reach there because the model will be running. And so let's see here. Let's go back a little bit. So let's see, WANDB logging, everything is here. So go to tensorboard callback.py. Do I even have that? So on step, let's see. We can just add this here. Right. I don't think weights and biases is in here at all, right? No. So that's going to screw with everything, I bet. Let's not do that then. That's really not particularly helpful. So there, it said to just adjust the weights here. Map transition, the stagnation penalty. So it's there. We made the changes there. Let's save each of these files. Now we're going to go to command prompt. I don't think it's showing here. I'm going to go. This is the GitHub repo. And now I need to activate it. So I need to go to the environment, scripts, and then activate. Now you see the Pokémon Red before it means that we've activated the virtual environment. And so then I need to switch to baselines. And then tell Python baseline fast v2. .py. So assuming that this goes smoothly, it should be able to kick off now. If I do this, let's change this here. Headless is going to be true just to see if we can kick it off correctly. And it's just going to make 4 agents, which is fine. I just want to see that this actually kicks off with some of the suggestions that it had gone through and made for us. So all in all, the suggestions, ChatGPT wouldn't even let us use the reasoning model on files, so can't provide it that information. So then we asked for it. The majority of the suggestions that it had given were not even using the code, even though it was supposed to be taking those in to do that. So like it created whole new functions that didn't exist within it. Again, it had like the wrong memory values for things like the menus. It said to create a menus function for healing. So it's like menu healing. And then go to certain memory values, check that they're there. I did pull in the scene coordinates, but then changed how it had gone through there. Hold on, this was supposed to be. And this is. I set it to false. It should be true, but all right. Hopefully this doesn't crash the stream in trying to kick these off. Hopefully you can see these. Put these here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it didn't crash once we kicked these off, which is good. It seems to at least be somewhat stable as it's moving around. Let's see here. We can check. Why is badge already 100? That is wrong in its implementation. Badge right now, the score should be 0. It should not have a value. So how it had implemented those scores is done incorrectly. Let's go back here. Got a badge. I know why. No, we want to go state reward. Yes, the reason for this is because 0 is a valid value here, as in you have no badges, but you're still getting 100 points for it. That's the problem. So the value here of 0 is, or this should start with 0, and then work its way up. And so that's going to be just wrong. So it did implement the badges, but it did it from before. Seems like doing a basic training. We are losing. So when it did the training cycle, sorry if it had kicked you out. It shows that the stream had just stopped, so still going here. It has completed some of the events at least so far. A few of them have done some of the leveling. Same before. We do have one that is receiving the low health. Hopefully it will try to do those. Unfortunately, the outcomes here is that it could just learn to die and then avoid the penalty by doing, or yeah, there you go. So one got knocked out. It now lost the low HP reward. And so we'll go. What I'm going to do here, because this is just off and running and doing the training. It's continuing the training from last time, which has learned to at least make it to Brock, or should have been able to. The proper way to do this, though, is to start at 0 with them. So what I will do is I will bring this stream down. All right. So I'll just leave it this way for now. Essentially, I'm going to end the stream for this here. I'm going to immediately bring up the learning stream, or the training stream, where it's going to go through and have the agents learn using the changes that we got out of Deepseek to see if we're going to get any, let's just say, reward differences here, and see if we can get more progress and actually get through Mount Moon. So the stream will go down for about the next 5 minutes. If you're watching on YouTube, a new stream will pop up with that. If you're on Twitch, this channel will just restart here in a couple minutes with that one kicking off. So for those of you that were here today, I appreciate you guys coming and seeing this. And then I'm going to transition now to actually letting the AI agents learn as we make that transition to using the code changes. So thank you all for coming. And then, like I said, give me a couple minutes and I'll have that up and running.